Hello, welcome to HRL Season 8, round number 3 here at Brooklands Classic. It's going to be a 75 lap race. Interval is 20 laps on those pit stops. Let's take a look at our qualifying results. Okay, so Pole went to Fireball with a 20.096, Roman second with a 20.246, Slaunch third with a 20.291, fourth was Vulcan with a 20.292. Again, that's already another situation where it's a thousandth of a second. And Turkey fifth with a 20.303. So there's your qualifying results, top 5 at least. Let's get right on with it. So front row, of course, from those qualifying results is going to be Fireball and Roman, and I might skip past this because I think they pace another lap. Because drivers were a little confused on how this track works. You know what? Let me take a second to explain it for the video, honestly, because I get it. At first, it's kind of confusing. So yeah, let's get an overview of Brooklands here. As you can see, kind of a unique layout. You're probably looking at this at first and being like, what? How does this work? So here's how it works. This middle portion of the track right here, this is purely just used for caution restarts. That is all that this is used for. So when there's a caution, drivers will go this way, and when the caution is restarted, or when the race is restarted, they will go this way as well. But then as soon as they start driving, as soon as they're past that for that one time, they do the normal track, which is go out of this corner and like that, and all the way around there. So that's how it goes normally. It's just for cautions that this is used, and for the end of the race, like for the finish of the race, that finish line is what is used as well. And pit road is also on the backstretch. So another unique thing about this track. But yes, that's pretty much how it works. Let's see if they go green. Did they actually go green? Holy crap. Okay, never mind. They're actually good to go. Alright, so going green here. And a little fun fact about this race. This is the second longest track, lap time-wise. The longest on the schedule is actually Tribus Valley, which is coming much later in the season. That's going to be a 55-lap race. So that'll just let you know, like on tracks like Chile, we have a 150-lap race. That track's just a 55-lap race. So that should give you an idea of how long that track is. This track, before the season was extended, was the longest track, so racers went into this race, rip Fireball already, went into this race knowing that. But again, like I said, it changed soon after, so we did end up getting a longer track in the season eventually. Also, Indianapolis, I think, is pretty similar in... I think it's a bit more similar to Jeddah, though. Yeah, I think Indianapolis is like somewhere between Jeddah and Brooklands in terms of lap time. So definitely some other long tracks on the schedule. Like just because you see, you know, the classic tracks like Chile. I guess Barville is more of a medium track, so I don't really want to include that one. And I think we have our first caution here for Elite flying outside of the track. But yeah, you see tracks that are raced more often, I would say. So like Grizzly, Hollywood, Chile. Tracks like that, or you could even throw Bowman in that list. This season we have a new track, Capua. You could say that fits the bill as well. Sacramento to an extent also fits the bill, Reeseville. And those are the tracks that are usually raced in a normal HRL season. Those are the tracks that are usually, that drivers usually tend to like. But in the Oval Series, we try to have like as mixed of an oval schedule as possible. So like to have some long tracks, some medium-sized tracks, and some short tracks as well. So we're already getting some pretty good variety in the first 2 weeks. We already had Jeddah, which is a longer track. Then we have this track, which is an even longer track than Jeddah. And then after that, it's mostly short tracks for a bit. And then you get your first like medium-sized track, which is Angel Park, and then 2 long tracks again, and then back into the short tracks. So the way this Oval Series schedule worked out, I'm just going to skip past this because I think they were just confused. And yeah, okay, now I think we're pacing. So yeah, what will we end up having? We end up having, depends what you want to consider a medium track. I suppose you could say we had like 2 to 4 medium tracks. Depends what you want to consider a medium track, man. I guess I'll throw Sacramento and Hollywood in them. If you want to throw those tracks in the list, it'd be like we had 5 medium-sized tracks. We had about 4 long tracks, and then about 3, I guess you could say, true short tracks, which were Reeseville, Capua, and Chile. The medium tracks were Barvo, Hollywood, Angel Park, Sacramento, and Bowman Gray, and then the long tracks, of course, Jeddah, Brooklands, Indianapolis, and Tribus, as we're about to go green here. So yeah, just trying to have a pretty good mixed schedule. Of course, as you can see with the schedule, what is going on? What the hell? I'm just gonna skip until they go green. Sorry about the delay. I really don't know what this is all about, so my bad. Oh, I remember. I think we have it fixed at this point in the race. I remember what it is now. I think we were having issues. We were trying to use game chat, and game chat wasn't working, and now we're using party chat, so the race should go clean from this point on. Now I remember. Yeah, that's what it was. But yeah, so it's not like a perfectly balanced schedule because it's mostly medium tracks, but at the same time, some of those medium tracks are to the point where like they could be considered short tracks, and some of them could even be considered long tracks, so that's why they're in the medium category. So it makes sense that medium tracks are the most common because they can kind of fit both categories in a way, like they don't really fit with either extreme. So yeah, it ends up being a pretty well balanced schedule. Anyways, back to green flag here. Battle for the lead is between Roman and Zlonge, and I think we have Fireball in third. But did I talk, I think Jeddah, right? Didn't I talk most in the Jeddah commentary? Didn't I talk a lot about the new changes for Season 9? Didn't I discuss that in the Jeddah commentary? Because I want to discuss something like that in this commentary, but I don't think that I have much else to go through here other than the draft. I think I got a post right now. I think we're about to be onto the next draft pick onto the clock. I gotta give it to Camby. There we go. Yeah, stuff for Season 9. Season 9 starts at the day that I'm recording this. When I post it, Season 9 probably starts the day that this releases, actually, the day that this uploads. So that's kind of crazy. But yeah, Season 9 coming up rapidly, and I want to, even though I did talk about the changes and stuff like that, I do want to have a little commentary here about another aspect of it that doesn't really have to do... What the hell's going on here? That doesn't really have to do with changes. So a lot of people are probably wondering, and the reason I'm doing this in this commentary, and I'll probably link this in the HRL Discord as well, tell people to just watch this and listen to this portion of the video instead of, you know, waiting for an announcement or something like that. Like, I probably will make an announcement regarding the ending of HRL, but it probably won't be as like in depth as I go into here for this race. So basically, the reason that Season 9 is the finale season, there's a lot of people, when something like this happens and they don't know why I made the decision, you know, they like to generally point to one factor, right? Like, a good example I could use, real life video game example, is when the Battlefield 5 beta got pushed back just recently to November. A lot of people, even myself, immediately attribute that to the fact its original release date was between Red Dead 2 and Black Ops 4, so that, like, obviously you don't need to be like a professional market analyst that has a college degree to realize that, you know, releasing a game in between those two juggernauts, probably, no matter what your game is, probably isn't a good idea. You know, you don't need to be a genius to figure that one out. There's already examples of that, the prime example being Titanfall 2. What was it, 2 years ago now at this point? Titanfall 2 kind of got the shaft by coming out between Battlefield 1 and Infinite Warfare, I believe. So yeah, a lot of people immediately attributed to that. They're like, oh, that's why the delay happened. It's because they're afraid of coming out at that time. When in reality, it's probably multiple factors, because after the beta came out shortly after the delay was announced. And then after the beta, I think most people realized, like, okay, I get it. The game is pretty buggy. Like, it's not Battlefield 4 levels of buggy, but clearly the game needed a delay. A month even, which is what it was. It was just a month delay, but even just a month, like, it needed some extra time, even if it's just a month. And I think that was clear to most people after playing the beta. So it's one of those things where, like, most people attribute it to one thing when they don't really know what was happening, and then once they actually experience it and get some insight on it, get some perspective, they're like, okay, I get it. It wasn't really like a black and white thing. And we have some pit stops. So let me get the pit cam going. Let's go something like that. So yeah, with HRL ending, it's another thing like that. So it's not really a black and white type thing where it's like, okay, there's one factor that contributed to me deciding that this would be the best time to end it, or at least go on break. And that's, I should probably say that first. It's not completely over, so we could come back next year, but it's probably not going to happen. But like, if If it did, it would be probably around like January, February time. So it's not like 100% confirmed over, but you know, it's one of those things where it's over for now, but there's always a chance, I guess. Anyways, I guess the biggest factor would probably be the fact that everybody's just tired of Halo 5 at this point. And that goes for forgers and drivers alike. So in order to have a racing league work, not only do you need people that are willing to race in it, you also need tracks, because 343 doesn't make anything. They don't care. So you need people to actually use the forge mode and make new tracks, because otherwise you're either not going to have tracks in general, or you're just going to end up racing the same stuff over and over again. And I think that we're right on the cusp of that happening, because I forged probably like the second most out of anybody, and besides like these recent oval tracks, I haven't really forged at all. We got 5 people pitting this time. 6 people, okay, wow. A lot of people pit on whatever lap this is. Let me check. Okay, lap 19 right there, which means we might see a couple more people stay out for a little bit. But I think most people have done their pits, so let's go back to an onboard cam. Yeah, there's Uncle Blake. I think besides him, maybe Elite has to pit. Other than that, probably about done here. But anyways, you need people to forge, and like I said, I probably forged the second most out of anybody, and I'm just not into it anymore. I was into it for the Oval Series, but like, it's to the point where I don't really forge for fun. I basically forge when I need to, and that's kind of the issue. Like, you need people forging for fun and forging all the time, when in reality we have people like Slaunch or Detail or Armada that'll pump out like a track a season maybe, which just isn't enough. And then you have Roman, which we're actually just happen to be on board with right now, who easily forges the most out of anybody. And even, unless I'm just being ignorant to it, I don't think he's even been doing much forge work recently. I mean, he did make a new track, like, let me look at the date, like 2.5, 3 weeks ago. But that's the thing, with Roman it's usually, you know, a track a week is usually a low point for him. It's usually multiple a week. So the fact that the last track that I've seen him say anything about was like 2.5 weeks ago isn't really a good sign. So that's one of the contributing factors. That's probably the main factor, is the fact that if there's not any interest in forging, then there's going to continually be less and less interest in racing as well. Because nobody wants to race on the same tracks over and over and over again. Like, how many times can we race Barvo and have it not be boring? So far it's been quite a few times, but like eventually it's gonna get, you know, people are gonna get burned out. It's like, how many times can we do that without spicing it up, you know? Another contributing factor is that last year there weren't really that many, like, big game releases always tend to hurt the racing community at least a little bit, but last year there weren't really any big game releases at all. There was like COD, that was about it. And even then, COD was average. There was Battlefront 2, which I don't even want to talk about that. Everybody knows what happened with that game. And then other than that, there was like the single-player games, maybe a few single-player games here, like Assassin's Creed. It's like the only one I can think of. There's Destiny 2, which is kind of a flop until recently. And what, the sports games. That's about it. So there wasn't really like too many big releases, whereas this year we have, what, Red Dead 2, as always a new COD game, but this new COD game actually has something new about it. So that's actually different. And then Battlefield releasing in November. What else comes out around Battlefield's time? Fallout. Yeah, Fallout comes out at that same time, I believe. I think I already mentioned Red Dead 2. We've already had like Spider-Man and Tomb Raider, so 2 big single-player games. So yeah, there's just like a lot of game releases. Also the Destiny 2 DLC. And there's a bunch more stuff than that, especially for cross or like other platforms. So people that are into Nintendo stuff, probably excited about Nintendo's first-party stuff. Point is, there's a lot of games coming out, a lot of really good games, a lot of new and exciting stuff. Whereas last year, the only game you really had was actually Fortnite. Is like the only game I can think of coming around towards the end of last year. So, and Fortnite, not too many people in the racing community were too big on it. Just, like, I was probably like the only one really. Like, other people kind of played it here and there, but not too much. So anyways, when it comes to big game releases, I do think that'll hurt attendance a little bit, because it always does. But I think it's just the timing of it, the fact that not only are we just seeing like Halo 5 interest at an all-time low right now, I think it's that coupled with the fact that we're seeing so many other game franchises coming out with some new really cool releases. and that's just going to take away a lot of interest from Halo 5. You know, who really cares about Halo 5 racing if you can go play a new BR mode or a new Battlefield game or a new single-player game that looks pretty polished and fun, or a Destiny 2 DLC even. Like, there's so much other stuff, and Fallout looks pretty cool as well, to be fair. And a lot of people are going to be into Red Dead. Not my cup of tea, but I know a lot of people love that game, love that series. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. That's just definitely a factor of it. What's the other one? I think there's, I don't know. I might have to watch the race here for a second while I think about it, because there is another factor. I just can't think of it. Well, I guess I could say this isn't another factor entirely, but just like contributing or bouncing off of the Forge comment. Like the plan, if you look at the plans for the next few seasons, they involved a lot of new forging. So that's the issue with forging, because like I said, you know, we probably could run another year on old tracks and be fine, but that's what I'm saying. Like, what about the year after that? That's probably when it would get boring. But that's not what we were planning on doing. If you look at the schedule, it's mostly like new stuff. Like, it's, you know, a little bit of old tracks here and there, but it'll be like 8 new tracks for this season, 8 new tracks for the season after that, 9 new tracks for the season after that. So it's just going to take a lot of work. And the truth is, I don't think anybody in the community is really just willing to put in that work right now. And that's not really a bad thing. It's just kind of, you know, it's just kind of the fact of where we're at, I guess. Yeah, I'm looking at the schedule now. Like, for next year's schedule, January to March, mostly new GP tracks. Then you have mostly new SX tracks, April to May. And then, you know, June to August, it's mostly new rallycross tracks. And then you get to season 13 at the very end of the year, which will finally be some return tracks. But again, it's mostly a fresh set of tracks. And I'm looking at these plans right now, and I'm like, this is great stuff. You know, if Halo 5 just came out, this would be great plans to do a racing series and to go across a bunch of different series and get a huge variety of racing. But like, for this point in Halo 5's life cycle, that's the only thing I regret, is not doing this plan earlier, because if Halo 5 just came out, this would actually be a really good plan. We're already at the second cycle of pits. It's just that at this point in its life cycle, it's not right. If there was a new Halo game coming out, that's actually, I just thought of it, that's the factor, that's what I was trying to think of. If there was a new Halo game coming out this year, then it would be different. Then it would be like, alright, this is perfect, this is lining up absolutely great. But because of the fact that I personally don't think Infinite's coming out for a long time, and nobody really knows when it's going to come out, is the issue. Like, yeah, it could come out next year, it could come out 2020, it could come out 2021, nobody really knows. My bet is on it coming out in 2020. Could I be wrong? Yes, I don't know. Nobody really knows. But that's kind of the issue. Like, if we had a release date right now to work around, if we had a release date at this moment in time, it's like, okay, Halo Infinite, it is coming out on, I don't know, what's a day? I don't know what the proper day would be. I'm just going to say, like, November 15th, 2020. Even though it would be 2020, just, like, having that date right now would do so much for the league, and like, having something to plan around. Whereas the fact that nobody really knows what's going on with the game at this point, kind of puts us in a rough spot, where it's like, okay, how do you plan for the future if you don't know when the future's coming? So that, like I said, that just puts us in a rough spot. It's like, what we can make all these plans for the game to come out in 2020, but then what if it comes out in 2021? What if it comes out early in 2019? So it puts us in kind of a situation where planning anything past this next upcoming fall is kind of not wise, because of the fact that the game could come out in 2019. It also could come out in 2020, could come out in 2021, could be 2022, nobody really knows. So because of the fact that it's really, like, uncertain when the game is going to come around, it just puts us in a situation where, okay, it's not really smart to plan that far ahead, because we could end up just having to scrap all those plans. So reality, if I wanted to keep it going, the most I could probably keep this going before Halo Infinite is probably another year. But the fact that I see that as being futile, the fact that I see it being like, okay, we continue this for another year, but then we're going to have to take a big break, a big year break before Infinite comes out anyways. I just don't really see it as worth it, because that year break is going to break up the community anyways. So why not just do it earlier? Why not just be honest with everybody and say, like, okay, I don't think this is going to work out for much longer. The fact that it's worked out as long as it did is pretty crazy. So we should probably end it now while it's like at a high point. And yeah, so I think I pretty much articulated my thoughts pretty well there. So hopefully that would give some insight onto why this would be the finale season. I think Fireball's losing the lead right here, is what's going on track. But yeah, I hope that gives some insight on why this is the finale season, if anybody's watching this afterwards. And yeah, there's not really much else to talk about. Pretty much all the factors that I said are it. Like that's pretty much it. Like I said, not really one-dimensional, not really one contributing factor. It's just a few things all piling on top of each other. And when I think about them all combined, I just came to the conclusion that now is probably the right time to end it. And for some people, it probably might be confusing because I just put out all the plans for the future seasons, and yeah, I get that. But I still don't consider that a waste of time, because if we do end up coming back at some point, whether it be later in Halo 5, whether it be for Halo Infinite or whatever, those plans are still there. I'm not going to delete them. So like, if we ever want to bring it back, everything's there and ready to go. So I don't regret making that stuff at all, because who knows
Mm-hmm.
what the future has. Like, it could be really useful come a year from now, a few months from now, a couple of years from now, who knows. But the point is, it may not be used at all. It also may be used very well, and it might make our lives easier in the future. So not really mad about that at all, actually. Plus, it'll just give us like some direction. I think we have a caution here. What lap is this? God, this track doesn't have a lap counter, so it's hard for me to tell. I think we're right on the cusp of the third pit cycle here, so I think there might be some people pitting under this caution. Maybe. Let's see how it goes. Aw, crap. Bob Saget, I cheesed it. That actually wasn't that bad. I should be able to get back there in half a second. That's not it, right? Yeah, that's not it. That's it, right? I believe that's it. Alright, yeah, so it wasn't that bad. So yeah, I think some people have to pit under this caution. Let's see. No, okay. All green, really? Hunter pits. Okay, we might not. I guess we're not at the point in the race I thought we were at. That's the rough part about not having checkpoints on this track. Now let's go on board. I'm just gonna go on board with Real Dill here. He's in like a nice mid-pack position. Wanted to go on board with somebody for this restart. And green flag. Yeah, now that the race is back underway. So yeah, that pretty much sums it all up. It was a good 3 years or so on Halo 5, give or take, I guess you could say. But yeah, I'm really proud of what we did making this crappy game work, because Halo 5 is just racing-wise not nearly as good as Reach or Halo 4 or even MCC to an extent. So yeah, I think what we did with Halo 5 was pretty good, considering, you know, we did a lot with what we had, I guess is the way to put it, because Halo 5 kind of sucks, and making a game with physics this bad work is something to be proud of. To be fair to Halo 5, though, it does have the best forge, so you gotta at least give it that. Like, at least we had some ammo to work with. But again, I mean, the forge mode is important, but personally I would take better goose physics over a better forge mode. When we're talking just purely racing, I would definitely take the better goose physics any day over a better forge mode. I mean, obviously, ideally you want both, but I'm just saying, if it came down to the two, gotta go with the goose physics. Because even with the best forge in the world, I mean, we've seen that with this game, even with the best forge in the world, you can only do so much to make these crappy goose physics work. You can only do so much. And we really have done a lot. Alright, now we have some people pitting, okay. We really have done a lot throughout this forge to make it work. Like a lot of little, I don't know, a lot of little forge tricks to try to make the racing better, I guess you could say. A lot of grab volumes, a lot of ruts and bumps and different degrees of banking and stuff like that. Just a lot of things to try to make it as best as it possibly could be. Why is Roman's pit stops are so slow? Every time I watch Roman take a pit stop, I'm like, dude, you're losing time off that. Like he takes the time to line it up really nicely, but it doesn't really pay off. It doesn't really pay off at all. Okay, we got some more people pitting. Every time he takes a pit, he always takes the time. I could just tell by watching. Like kind of like what that driver, is that Turkey right there just did? I think that's Turkey. Always takes the time to like really line up the goose in the pit box, and if you want to have like the fastest pit stops possible and be gaining time off of your pit stops, you just can't be doing that. You just can't be doing that at all. I think here was the caution, right? Yep. Okay, so this is, I was talking in an earlier race about how caution's like still going to play a pretty big role. This is one of those races, so we have a caution here at a time where some of these drivers up front haven't pitted yet, and they cannot make it to the end of the race. Like, they need to pit here. And some of these other drivers, though, have pitted already, and they can make it to the end of the race. So we're going to see some of the front runners here have to take their pit, which is going to switch up the field immensely. Look at that. We have, like, what, 5 people right there have to take their pit. They were all in the front. I think that was the top 5. That's going to put Real Deal all the way up to the lead. So this is a really big pit right here. Look at that. Slaunch, Elite, Hunter, Armada, and Soul Reaper as well, all going to lose spots. All going to lose a lot of spots, is what I should say, off of having to pit right there. So this is going to make the end of this race very interesting, because that was the third and final pit interval. None of these drivers have to pit anymore. They are good to go for the rest of this race. And yeah, so all those fast drivers in the back, they're going to be in a tough spot. All these people that won out that pit strategy, I would say that I would bet on one of them winning this race. So Real Deal is in a really good spot considering that he's in the lead. But you also got Uncle Blake behind him, then Turkey, then Roman. Roman's been very strong all day. Is that Vulcan right there? I think that's Vulcan right there in the top 5. Haven't seen much of him. We have Fireball just outside the top 5. He's been strong, had the pole here, so got to expect him to work his way up there as well. So yeah, this is going to help those guys out a lot. But at the same time, I'm sure those people in the back can still catch up, so it's not going to be guaranteeing a win. Also, that pit happened, I think we're either hitting lap 60 or 61 right here, and this is a 75 lap race. So that's a lot of time, especially with how big this track is. That's a lot of time left in the race, so definitely not a guaranteed good finish for any of these people up here. There's plenty of time to go. Let's get on board with Roman here. He's making moves. I think he already gained a spot back there. Or no, he was trailing behind Turkey, so he just gained a spot on Turkey here. Now he's going to try to extend that to Uncle Blake and see if he can get another spot. That would be huge if he can get it right away. We have Fireball as well going for Turkey behind him, which is big too. If Fireball can get some position here, maybe he can get up to the front. Like I said, he got pole. He's been solid all day. Roman not giving any favors there to Uncle Blake, just shoving him up. He knows he's fast. He wants to just get to the front of the pack. Uncle Blake, though, he's still up here, so like I wouldn't be surprised if he retaliates. I don't think he can do anything to Roman, though, at this point. Roman's gone. So Fireball gets the spot on Turkey as well, and now we have a pretty solid top 3 here of Real Deal, Roman, and Fireball. It's probably going to be, and judging by the skill of those drivers, it's probably going to be one of those 3 drivers that takes the win, as long as there's no caution. If there's an extra caution, that might mix things up, but assuming there's no caution, I'd say it's one of those 3 drivers. Although Fireball, what is he doing? He's running an unorthodox line. He really gives up a lot of ground right there, and Vulcan and Uncle Blake are just zooming right by him, so Fireball's really putting himself in a rough spot here. And now he's in a really bad spot. He's like stuck at this spot. Slon's gonna get a huge advantage off of this. Yeah, Fireball's really screwed himself over here. Unless he can make some sort of crazy move with Turkey here to the inside, maybe. Uncle Blake's side down. This might work in their favor. They're trying to draft it up. It's kind of working. So Turkey gets the short end of the stick, but for Fireball, that actually helped him a lot. And now he's... Sirens? What is that? What is Sirens? So now we have a 3-wide battle for third here, nearing the end of this race. Like I said, I think we're at about 10 laps to go here. And then we have Real Deal and Roman first and second up there as well. And it looks like Roman's making gains on Real Deal, so we might see a lead battle here towards the end of this race. Definitely make things exciting. Fireball getting back involved here, trying to get third place back from Slaunch. Looks like Vulcan has been shoved out. See if he can fight back at all as well. Maybe, I don't know. Going to Fireball, not quite able to do it. He tried to steal the momentum, but just wasn't quite able to do it. Let's get on board with Roman, though, as fast as we can, because Roman is making moves. Come on, there we go. And there it is, Roman side by side with Real Deal, but it's going to be about if he can complete the pass. And kind of saw this one coming. He was just gaining time very rapidly. And, yup, he's going to take that spot. And Real Deal kind of gets like a lag cheese out of it. I don't know, that looked weird, but Roman takes the spot, and now it's Real Deal and Slaunch side by side for second. This could help out Fireball because it gives him an opportunity to get up there and get involved as well. And there it is. Yup, he gets that tire on Slaunch, so now Fireball may be back in this battle. And look at how big of a lead that Roman's opened up. With the amount of time left in this race, he's good to go as long as there's not a caution, especially with the pace that he's running at right now. Roman's looking really good. Vulcan now getting involved in this as well. So yeah, this is a big battle for the top 5 positions. Fireball might eventually end up getting the advantage here. Back to the inside, getting those shoves, getting that momentum steal. Slaunch now falling back to 4th. Real Deal trying desperately to hold on to 2nd. At one point it was looking like that 3-wide was going to get too tight. At one point it was looking like Real Deal would be a shoo-in to win this race, but Roman's been on an incredible pace ever since that restart, and he is just, like I said, he's just accelerating to the lead, and I know that they're battling, but he's really stretching that gap. Like, he's really stretched that gap. He could probably slam the wall and still be good at this point, as long as he only does it once. He could probably take a wall slam and be fine. Real Deal trying to get a slide there on Fireball. Not sure if he's able to pull it off. We're very close to the end here. Slaunch now battling for 4th between him and Vulcan. Real Deal going to try to hold that podium position. Fireball, I think he's pretty happy with this. He was in like 6th or 7th a few laps ago. Just had a really rough couple of laps, made some wrong moves, but it seems that he's recovered. He's now back into 2nd, and I think he's definitely going to be looking to hold on to that position. But Roman in the lead. Roman's looking really strong. And yeah, like I said, it's going to take something crazy like a lag spike. Speaking of lag spike, Fireball gets hit with one. That's actually going to affect Real Deal more. I think this is to the line right here. But Real Deal is going to get Slaunch. I think that might have just been it. That was it. So that lag spike out of Fireball actually ended up affecting Real Deal and almost costing him his position. That was weird. So Roman ends up taking, and I'm checking the official results, so I'm just going to give the official results right away. Roman ends up taking his first win of the season here on Brooklands. Fireball takes 2nd, Real Deal takes 3rd, Slaunch 4th, and Blake 5th. Elite 6th, holding in the burp action. Hunter 7th, Armada 8th, Shift 9th, and Sector 10th. And then we have the people that ran out of fuel. So everybody in the back here didn't necessarily finish in the back. They just ran out of fuel, and that's why they get those back positions. So you're going to see some people that finish like throughout the pack here that don't get their spot because they ran out of fuel. So Vulcan was 11th, ran out of fuel. Turkey 12th, ran out of fuel. Camby 13th, ran out of fuel. And Racer 14th also ran out of fuel. So unfortunate for those drivers. If they were a little bit cleaner on their fuel strategy, could have gained a few extra points. Like Racer had a pretty bad finish anyway, so the fuel didn't really hurt him that much. He went from 12th to 14th. At that point, it's kind of like, who really cares? Again, Turkey was like 9th to 12th, so not too bad. You know, every point is a point, but could have been worse. Camby, again, he was pretty far back there too. The person who really got affected by it though was Vulcan. Vulcan got shafted by that. He could have had a top 5, and he gets shuffled back to 11th. So that's who really got hurt the most. For the other drivers, you know, it hurts, but it's not that bad. I wouldn't be too mad over it. Vulcan, though, I'd be pretty pissed. Alright, so now we move on to the last race, which is going to be, I believe it's Chile. Looks like it is. Last race is Chile.